Hi friends, my name is Lindsey and I run the vlog Books for Christian Girls, and welcome back to the little corner of the internet where I talk mainly about Christian fiction and clean fiction, because today is a recent reads and I have 18 books to talk about. I've been meaning to film this, but I wanted to finish a series so I could talk about the whole series in this, but that's going to come at the end. But I have Christian fiction, clean romantasy books. I think that's how we say that. Romantasy, romance, fantasy, but they're clean. I have clean historical, clean Regency. I've got Christian fantasy. I've got fantasy. I've got it all. Well, not everything, but I've got a lot of really good books. And unlike my last recent reads, I have no controversial opinions in this video. At least I don't think I will. And that's pretty much unheard of. I feel like last time I really had a lot of them though, so sorry about that. But I know a lot of y'all like that, but at the same time, I feel bad giving y'all a lot of controversial thoughts, but this recent reads is going to be so easy because it was really just a lot of good books and a couple mediocre books, but a lot of really good ones as well, which just makes me so happy. So with that, let's get started. I know I said in my last recent reads that I was going to let y'all decide about which way to organize my recent reads, whether like my old way of having it very like broken up into genres or just do clean fiction and Christian fiction like I've been doing, and I think I prefer filming wise and editing wise. Currently I'm really liking this breaking them up just into the two genres and ranking them from lowest to highest. I'm really liking that way, so I think that's what I'm gonna do for this video, and that could totally change in the next recent reads. We'll just have to see. As always though, there's going to be links to all of these reviews down below in the description. If they are Christian fiction, they will be on my blog, and then if they are clean fiction, they will just be on Goodreads, but content info will be listed in both of those places, so y'all can check them out. I will try to note any major big things, but if there's ever a book I talk about that you're interested in, please check out the content details, because I am human and I don't remember everything. I kind of wish I did, but at the same time it's probably a good thing I don't remember everything, because some books have been, you know, but yeah, I make mistakes, I forget things, but my reviews are very organized, very all the info you could possibly need kind of thing. So if there's anything you want to make sure you avoid when reading, please check that out. But by clean fiction, when I talk about it, I mean pretty squeaky clean, and we'll discuss that more when I introduce the clean fiction section, but let's get started with Christian fiction. For Christian fiction, I have 4 books. Actually, I feel really bad that only 4 of these are Christian fiction out of 18, but majority of the clean fiction is a whole series that I'm just gonna like have fun and fangirl about, so we'll come back to that, but for now, in this recent reads, there's only 4 Christian fiction books. I'm sorry y'all, I'm sorry, but anyway. So the first book for the Christian fiction side would be Evan Miller is Waking Down by Jerel Law, and I gave this one 2 stars. I feel like this was really just a massive case of not my cup of tea, and I can see why some people would like it, particularly if you are a teenage boy or a middle grade boy or that kind of thing. I'm not, so I didn't really care for different elements. I'm trying to think how I can condense this book, because it's a fantasy book. It's kind of a dystopian-esque world, and I don't know, it's just kind of confusing in a way. Basically though, our main guy is Evan Miller, and he's 15 years old, and he has these dreams where he is able to, I don't know how to explain this. He has these dreams, and they're not dreams, but like he wakes up out of them, but it's like a meanwhile, I'm not quite sure how to explain this book. It was different, wasn't my cup of tea. I wrote a lot of thoughts in my content review of this book at the final section, like I always do, but this one I did write quite a few thoughts because it was very kind of confusing in the sense of not really any adult is trustworthy in this world, and because of these dreams he's got to keep it a secret and can't really trust anyone. But then you've got like the government that you get very shady vibes from. You have them, they're like, the school is called the Temple and the people are called elders, and they talk about this primary code that the Voice gave them. So like it feels very Christian religion-ish, but at the same time a Christian / religion-ish because of those words being used. But then you've got other things on another side that could feel that way, and I'm pretty sure are supposed to be more of our God, and it was interesting. It kind of reminded me a bit of the Swipe series by Evan Engler. If you know about that series, it's kind of an oldie and the author's completely disappeared. The writing style, the target market, the plot really reminded me of that series. Mainly though, I think that's because of the writing style of the author and then the teenage boy protagonist and just maybe that fantasy setting. Maybe that's why it reminded me of the series so much. But I was kind of losing my mind because it reminded me of that series so much. And I do think it's really weird that the main character of that book is Evan, and then the Swipe series is written by an Evan, which is actually a pen name of somebody we have no idea who the author is. Like that whole, don't get me and Celestia started on that bunny trail because we're still trying to figure that out. And so I did my yearly hunt on, can I find out who Evan Engler is? One day I will be able to report in that I have figured it out. But for the meantime, this was different. It was just different. Not really my cup of tea. I could see why some people would like it. It was just different. It was interesting. I don't really want to talk about it anymore. My next Christian fiction book was also another fantasy book. I read a lot of fantasy books in this list. Like, just be prepared to be kind of impressed, maybe impressed. If you like fantasy books, you may be impressed. But the next one I read was If the Stars Awaken by Kate Willis. I gave this one 3 stars. It wasn't personally my favorite type of fantasy book, but I did think it was very interesting. This was very different from my normal read because not only does it feature a married couple, mainly the wife, but it stayed very clean, which I'm so appreciative to the author for, because typically I avoid books with married couples because of content. But this was very clean, and it had its very sweet moments because of that, and then things happened that tried to rip my heart out. So there was that. I want to talk about that, but that's spoilers, so I can't. And then we also see a guard's point of view, and then an apprentice to this kind of, you can almost call him like a pastor, prophet kind of guy. It was very interesting. There was a lot of symbolisms in it. It has a lot to do with the stars, but the setting of this world is basically like dystopian apocalyptic, where the world is like ending. They've received like a judgment, the world is ending, but then at the same time it kind of felt medieval world-ish. It was different. It was just very different. If you like fantasy, if you want to try something that's, maybe if you just want something different, I keep saying that word, I'm sorry. But like just something that's not maybe your normal style of fantasy books, I would suggest giving this one a try. It was really different. I'm sorry I keep saying the word different. It just is. Like, it's not, I can't think of a comparable book or series that reminded me of this at all. It was a very different writing style. It was very unique. I liked elements of it. It wasn't a new favorite, but I did appreciate different parts. Another Christian fiction book I read is a historical fiction book, and that is With Each Tomorrow by Tracie, Peterson, and Kimberley Woodhouse. This is book 2 in the Jewels of, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, Kalispell, maybe? The place in Montana. I really enjoyed the first book. I thought it was just so lovely, so sweet, great faith content, gorgeous cover. This one also gorgeous cover, lots of faith content. The main girl just kind of drove me a little batty. Now this book is about what, almost 400, about 390 pages, so we can just round up and say 400 pages. And it took a good 100 pages for me to get involved into the story, because the main girl, Eleanor, was kind of insufferable, and I say that in the nicest way I can, but she was very kind of snooty. So her and her dad are coming to Montana, and they are trying to figure out where a national park can go. And I thought that element was very interesting, and it's always interesting when you have two main characters that are obviously going to become a couple later on, have very different views on something that's very important to them. And I don't mean that in the faith regard. I mean it, so like in this regard, she was very much like, oh, people do not need to have hundreds of thousands of acres or hundreds of acres, thousands of acres, whatever. Normal people don't need to do that because they're going to ruin the land. Because that's what she's been raised with her dad being a conservationalist. But now our main guy, he's a farmer's son, has a flour mill, I think it was. And so he's very much like, no, we need this. We provide for so many other states. We kind of need it. So it was very interesting to have that dynamic of two very different viewpoints in that regard. Now, a viewpoint I don't really like seeing often, though, is when half of the couple is mad at God for whatever reason, and then the other half of the couple has a great faith. Now, mind you, we will eventually get to the point where our person who is upset, in this case it was Eleanor, will get right with God, and that's great. It just took a long time to get there, which is realistic, don't get me wrong. I wanted to whack her. I feel like I say that in almost every recent read, that there's just some character I just want to smack, and that just makes me sound violent, and I'm not. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it to a real person, but fictional people, fair game. Now, with that though, it was nice to see that while the main guy, Carter, was interested in her and attracted to her, he wouldn't become anything more than just friends with her because of that lack of a faith foundation similarities. Now, unfortunately, he does tell her this, and he doesn't do it in a great way, so she doesn't take it well, which, I mean, to be fair, I can't blame her. How he said it, I was just like, oh, this boy. They both had lessons to be learned in this book, particularly her, but he was not perfect. He had things to learn too. And it was good to see family aspects, and like, I would honestly say, yes, this is technically a historical romance book, but I feel like the faith and the witnessing was the main part of this book, for sure. If you really enjoy where we see like character development in books, like major character development and faith development for a certain character, then you may really enjoy this book. I did personally find it a bit too long. I wish I had liked it more. I am going to keep it though, because I did like some of the faith content. There was a couple things that I can't say I personally agree with how it was said. It felt a little modern, if you will, which makes sense because, you know, contemporary authors in a contemporary setting trying to write historical fiction. But there was just a few little things I was like, oh. So, I mean, it wasn't a hit. It wasn't a miss. I gave it 3 stars. It kind of was, you know, middle of the road sounds wrong. It wasn't my favorite, but it wasn't bad either. I am so sorry if you can hear lawn guys in the background. I have this day to film and this day to film only, so I hope y'all aren't hearing that. My last Christian fiction book I have to talk about today, I'm so sorry it's only 4. I know I keep apologizing, but I do feel weird because this is a Christian fiction channel, and mainly in this video it's clean fiction. But again, most of them are going to be books in the series. I think like 7 or 8 of them are one book in one series, so does that make it a little bit better? I don't know. But my last book for Christian fiction would be Hope at the Ocean's Edge by Chantal J. MacDonald. I've been avoiding this book for almost a year, and I feel so bad to the author for that, so I'm so sorry to the author if she happens to be watching this. She sent this to me for review almost a year ago now, and I've attempted to start it so many times, but it starts with a car accident, and that is really hard for me to read personally, so heads up on the trigger for that. So I've kind of been pushing it off, but I had one moment this past couple of weeks where I'm like, okay, I'm going to read it, I'm going to read it, I'm going to read it. And I thought it was very interesting. I ended up giving it 3.5 stars. This is about Sadie, who is 18 years old, and she's fixing to graduate high school, and she just wants to leave her small town where everybody knows her. They know about the car accident that took her parents, and they know everybody's business, you know, very small town. This is actually set in Canada, though, which was really interesting. I haven't read a lot of contemporary Canadian books, so it was interesting to see different parts about that. And she goes to church with her aunt and uncle, and she goes through the motions, but she doesn't want to have a personal relationship with God after he took her parents. And I think that's a pretty realistic view on that point. And so when she meets this handsome young man, and he is very outgoing and vocal about his faith and his testimony, she likes him, but that part she's not a fan of. And so they have moments, you know, it's very coming of age. I don't want to give too much more. I'm going to stop there, I think, on the plot. But it's very coming of age, so if you like a very summer YA contemporary feel, this will probably be coming up in my recommendations video for the summer that I'll be posting, I think, in July. I don't think I'm going to probably be able to post it this month. I am on a very specific schedule coming up because my 200th video is coming up, and I want to do something very special for that, which I already have in mind, but I have other things I have to do before that. So my summer recommendations video will come out in July, and this book will most likely be in it. I haven't read book 2 or 3, but I am very curious about reading book 2 and 3, and this whole series seems to be on Kindle Unlimited, so you can check it out if you'd like to. There are a couple more trigger topics or trigger warnings, sensitivity warnings that I posted in my review that I won't say in this video just because I'm not quite sure how YouTube blocks certain words. Like I know I couldn't say that word on TikTok, so I'm just gonna have you check out my review if that's okay. If you're interested in this book, overall I did like seeing people witness to her and how, I don't know, it had a raw emotion to it that felt very realistic. I cried. I'll admit it. I did cry a couple times. I cry easily nowadays, it feels like, but certain points I do cry more, and this one did make me tear up a few times. Just the faith content and her struggles and just different elements. It was very interesting. It was very coming of age. That's the only word I can describe this book with, is it was very coming of age. And I haven't read a book that has that theme in a while, it feels like. I've been reading contemporary YA, Christian contemporary YA for a while, a long while actually, but like more recently I haven't had too many to pick up, and this really did satisfy that coming of age YA new adult feel. I would say probably more 15, 16 and up, but feel free to check out my review again for those little bit of those warnings. For clean fiction, we are going to start with some Regency and historical books. And the first one is going to be There Goes the Groom by Esther Hatch. I gave this one 2 stars. I was really sad about that because I really enjoyed the first book in the series. The second book was a little kissy for my taste. But then this second book, again, it got on that kissy side and like it's really that. Then y'all know I'm very particular on that. I don't want to have a lot of the details of how they're kissing and where hands are going and then mentions of like temptations and fantasies and that kind of thing. I'm like, no. No, thank you. So it was very humorous. This is about a arranged I can't say the word. Betrothal. Got it. With Lucy and Matthew, and they've never met. And so Lucy, being the mischievous girl she is, she sends her younger sister to go act like her and basically test this guy. But the younger sister says, oh, I'm Lucy, but she's like 13. So Matthew, who's like 18, is like freaked out, and rightfully so. This is how we know he's a decent guy. And so he just disappears for a few years. Disappears. Gone. Gone. Nobody's seen him, doesn't contact his parents. And then one day, a few years later, Lucy happens upon him as a delivery driver. And so she's like, I wonder what's going on here. I want to get to know him, because they are still engaged. Like, dramatics here. They are still engaged. And so she kind of hides her identity, which I like, a good hidden identity. We know this. And she hides her identity and becomes like this Scottish or Irish woman and just basically follows him around as like an assistant. And he's like fighting attraction to her, but he knows he's engaged to someone else. And okay, the girl should be grown up by now, because he still thinks that her little sister was her, who is like 13, youngster kind of thing. And so there was a lot of hijinks and humor and cute parts, and I laughed. It's just those kisses. I'm not a fan of those kisses. Like, I was thinking it was going to be a 3 for me, but then by the end, it was like there was a couple of really heavy makeout sessions. I'm just like, it's got to be a 2, and even that feels a little generous at this point, which is so unfortunate, because I did find the plot very humorous and the characters humorous and like the different things, but yeah, no, unfortunately it was a 2. I think it's raining, my dear friends. Okay, we're going to continue on. The lighting's going to get wonky here, I'm sure, if it's not already wonky for y'all. Another clean Regency book I read. The other one is clean in the sense of like no bedroom stuff, no language, but it's not as squeaky as I prefer. This one was on the squeakier side. So that was The Audacious Miss Eliza by blah, blah, blah. And that was The Audacious Miss Eliza by Laura Rollins. I am struggling with this title and the author's name. I should not be struggling. I know all these words. But I gave this one 3 stars. This was another little clean Regency book on Kindle Unlimited. No language, sexual innuendos, none, that kind of thing. I enjoyed this book. There was just one part there at the end that thankfully didn't get dragged out too much, but the main guy was just being a fool, an utter and complete fool. My eye was twitching, like quite literally twitching because of a friend. But this is about Eliza, and she has a cousin who is like a sister to her, and then a younger sister. And when her and her father come across highway robbers trying to rob this rich, wealthy woman, her father stops those highway robbers, and the woman's like, oh, I must repay you. You're going to put your daughters in society and I'll foot the bill, basically. Well, kind of foot the bill. Basically, she'll introduce them to society and he's got to pay for it. And so he gets like knighted and becomes a lord or something like that. You know, I don't remember the titles, but you know, that kind of thing. It was very interesting to have this perspective though, because typically it's like these girls are raised in society and then they go out and debut into society and then they stay in society. Or maybe they're not in society but they marry into society. But this girl's case is they are not raised in society, raised just, I think they had horses or something like that. Maybe not, I don't remember. But very like run-of-the-mill basic family, and then suddenly they are thrown into society, and not just one of them but all three, and then you know that's kind of scandalous for the time period. Like, why would you debut all three of them at the same time? It was just very interesting to see a different perspective. I don't typically see that, so I did think this book was interesting. One little thing, I read the Kindle edition and I thought, when I flipped through this book, I later saw that it had these gorgeous flower illustrations in between chapters, and I just think that's so pretty. I just want to get like my colored pencils out and color this. It's so pretty. So I am currently debating if I'm keeping this book. I own the other two. I randomly bought these. I saw them online for a really good deal. They said they were clean Regency. Buzzword right there. Good price. So I own the other two of the series. I think it's 4 books though technically. And I'm going to read those, and then I may think about which ones I'm going to keep or if I'll keep the whole series. I'm kind of on the fence because I did really enjoy this book until the last little bit where stupid decisions are made, and it just made my eyes twitch because they were being fools. So other than that, I did though enjoy it. Hello, this is Lindsay from the future. I totally forgot to talk about 2 books, so we're going to talk about those real quick. And the first one is Maiden in the Tower by Heidi Kimball. I gave this book 4 stars. Very easy 4 stars. This one and the next book, which is A Beautiful Love by Megan Walker. I'll come back to that one. But both of those books are in a Regency Fairytale series, and now I've read 4 books out of 6 of this series, and I have enjoyed all of them. I'm really excited about that. Like, I'm 4 out of 6 so far. 4 for 4. I'm very hopeful about the last 2. I hope I like the last 2 as well. They seem to be a little more on the winter side though, so I'm debating if I'm going to save them or not. But honestly, this series has just been so lovely. They've all been about like 120 to, I think the highest one was like 180 maybe pages. Like, they're very thin. And this one was actually a retelling of Rapunzel, and it was so cute. This had such springtime vibes. I feel like you could read it any time of the year, but if you specifically want a springish book that has like cottages and gardens and hidden identities and just cuteness, go for it. I really, really enjoyed this book. I'll be getting a physical copy because it was adorable. And then last night, I just finished A Beautiful Love by Megan Walker. This was really sweet. This was actually an Ugly Duckling retelling, and I'll be talking about another Ugly Duckling retelling here in this video shortly. I've actually already talked about it, but like I said, I totally forgot to talk about these 2 books, so I'm squeezing this in. And I wasn't sure how that would go though with reading 2 Ugly Ducklings back to back, but they were very different styles of the Ugly Duckling. One was the main girl was the duckling. This one was the main guy is the duckling. And it's more focused on his physical appearance. And then in the other book, it was more focused on her being an outcast and rejected from society and more lots of people and that kind of thing. So it was very different. So I'm hoping I'll be able to keep these 2 separated in my mind, because I don't typically read the same genre or the same fairy tale retelling back to back, like that same story. I try not to do that for the sake of my poor brain, so hopefully I'll do okay with this. But this was very sweet. Again, it's only like 130 pages. It was just very, very sweet. I don't really know what to say else about it. They were childhood best friends, and then when he went and rescued tenants that were in a house on fire. He ended up being very scarred, and so he broke everything off with her. And of course she's hurt, understandably, but now it's been a year and he's coming to honor, what was it? His mother promised they would come or something. And so they come, and I like the childhood best friends trope. I think that's just so precious, so sweet. And he's really friends with her brother, but they all hung out together because they're close in age. So it was just very sweet. They have ducklings in here. I like ducklings. This was cute. 4 stars. Very easy 4 stars. This whole series so far, I've read these 4 books, and I feel like they all could be expounded upon and become a full-length book. Totally. Easy peasy. Totally could be full-length books. Authors, just hint, hint, wink, wink, if you will, because they were all very sweet, but they're great at this length too. I want more because they were just lovely. It's fun to read Fairytale retellings in a Regency setting. I don't know, it's just fun. So those were those 2 books, and let's continue on with the video. Okay, so technically I should do a clean fantasy book, but I'm in the mood to continue to talk about historical, so I am going to talk about a book I gave 4.5 stars that was historical, and then we'll go back down to a 4-star fantasy book. But we do what I want. That's it. That's what we're doing. We're doing what I want to do. So here we go. To Capture His Heart by Nancy Campbell Allen. Look at all my tabs. Can y'all see my tabs? Look at them. I really enjoyed this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I did round down to 4 on Goodreads because it wasn't quite a 5, but it was very, very close to that because it was a 4.5. But I don't know, there was just a slight difference. And I had prior read a 4.5, which I'll talk about here in a couple books away, that was basically that I did round up as a 5. But this one I rounded down to a 4, but I did give it 4.5. I really need half stars on Goodreads. I really need them to do that. So basically, here's what sold me on this book. She's a photographer, historical setting right at like the turn of the 1900s, and then they have to fake date. I needed to know nothing else. Now, the first book in this series was The Matchmaker, A Matchmaker's Lonely Heart by the same author, and that was about their cousin. It's 3 cousins, and that was one of the cousins. This is the second cousin, and then the third cousin's book I think released earlier this year, and I'm going to be reading that one soon. Because this has been a very fun series. The first one I enjoyed. I think I gave that one a 4. I think I gave it a 4. I'd have to double check. But this one was the one I knew when I heard about this series I was going to really want to read, want to enjoy. I almost skipped the first book because I'm really bad about doing that. I almost skipped the first... Well, I'm bad about doing that for clean fiction books. I'll just skip to whatever tropes I like if I hear a book has it and ignore the rest of the series. But I didn't do that with this trilogy, and I'm really glad I didn't because I did enjoy the first book. I enjoyed seeing the settings and the characters and being introduced to them all. And this book, our main girl is a photographer, and she has worked with the police force, and our main guy is the detective at the police force, and they were just great. So he actually comes from a pretty wealthy family, and his mother is going to do a week-long kind of gathering for different friends, and it's kind of turning into a matchmaking event. And he's like, whoa, hang on here. No. I'm actually interested in someone. And of course his mom jumps on that like a piranha. And so now he gets to pull in his crush, and it's just so cute. So he's just like, I need you to pretend that you're in love with me. And that's not pretend. Of course it's not pretend for either of them. And that's my favorite type of fake dating for that trope. Like that little micro trope under it of they actually do really like each other, so they're not acting. I prefer that one as opposed to like they hate each other but they're fake dating, and for some reason everyone buys that. I don't really care for that one as much. But when they actually like each other and they're like it's not pretend. So cute. And then we have some suspense. We've got a murder happening and just all kinds of different things. This was very, very enjoyable. As a photographer and as someone who collects vintage cameras, I found the photography aspects of this book just fascinating. And so that's actually some of the tabs here are parts about the historical photography elements, and how they even talked about the Kodak brand coming out with their one where all you have to do is press the button and send it to them and they'll handle the rest, which is like, I don't know, I just found that fascinating. I like this time of history regardless, but adding in the photography history, I'm in. And then fake dating, she's a photographer. Again, I say less. I really enjoyed this one. Looking forward to reading the third book, but I feel like this will probably be my favorite of the series because I really enjoyed it. It just had so many parts that I really liked. So 4.5 stars. So moving into clean fantasy, I gotta talk about this book. I'm very excited to talk about this book. And that is Assassin of Fire and Sacrifice by Mary Mecham. Maybe is how you pronounce the author's last name. So, this was a buddy read with Celestia, Christy, and Tabitha. Kind of a random little one. We're just like, hey, would anyone want to read this? And I'm like, sure, I'm game. I've been looking at this series on Kindle Unlimited. They look interesting. I've heard a lot of good things about this author's other books, particularly Becoming Hook and Hunting Sirens. I've seen a lot of my Christian booktuber friends talk about that clean series, and I want to read them now. But this one, I was like, wow. This is going to be interesting. Let's first admire my tabs. See my tabs? Is my camera focusing? I have no idea. Tabs. Okay, so I had to tab this book up. I bought a copy just so I could tab it. And then I did a thing. Y'all, I gave this book 4 stars. I think everyone else gave it 5 stars in the buddy read. It was a very easy 4 for me. But I did do a thing and I actually ordered the hardback because I didn't realize the hardback had a really pretty special illustration. I need a pretty illustration, yes please. So yes. So I actually ordered that one and it's coming tomorrow. It's coming tomorrow. I was like, man, it couldn't have come today when I had to film. No, it's coming tomorrow. And so let me tell you about this book because when I added this to my Goodreads, a couple people commented and they were just like, oh, this looks very out of your norm, Lindsey. And it was. It was. But I enjoyed it. This is about a girl named Azora, maybe is how you pronounce her name, Azora, and she is from this one kingdom and she is basically an assassin, right? And she has been raised and trained to hate this other country that they've been at war with for like 100, 200 years, and she has always wanted to basically get back to that country, have her revenge because they murdered her parents. And so she gets the opportunity when the crown prince of that other country, I don't remember any of the country's names, I'm so sorry, and I probably couldn't even pronounce them anyway. This other country, though, that they're at war with, has phoenix shifters as the royal family. And so she gets picked, because of different reasons, to go become his princess. And the banter in this book was top notch. I was shocked by how much I enjoyed this book because, like, you know, it's kind of more of like the, what is the, if you touch her I'll kill you, if you touch him I'll kill you kind of trope, that trope, but like, I don't typically do that trope. Like, I'm pretty particular on my enemies to more, but this one's banter just was like, wow, this is good. And even though it had like the arranged marriage, which y'all know I don't really do the marriage of convenience or arranged marriages because that adds in kind of a sexual tension or comments, that kind of thing. This book didn't really have anything like that. I would still mark it as 16 and up. I go in details on my review on Goodreads, but like nothing happens. Nothing is alluded to happening. So not even a fade to black scene. The author has so much respect in my book just about that. My book, haha. But in my eyes for that, because I really don't like seeing any allusions to that kind of thing. So was really just impressed with this book. I feel like I'm rambling, but I enjoyed this. There were so many banter parts that I was just like, wow. Wow, this is good. There were so many times I gasped and just had to message the group chat going, have y'all got here yet? And I am a terrible buddy reader, in case you didn't know. Where if I find myself sucked into a book, I finish it. I don't wait. But I make lots of notes. I make copious notes about different parts and like marking the percentages. So like when everyone's like, oh, I'm at this percentage, I send all my notes kind of thing. I'm really bad about that. So just heads up, if you ever want to do a buddy read with me, I may finish the book first. I was trying to flip through and like, which part could I talk about? Like what quote? But honestly, I feel like it's not going to be like the best if I just tell it to you kind of thing. It's best in the context of the book. But this was just really neat. The world the author created. I really am impressed in fantasy books when the author just creates a world. And obviously that's the normal thing to do in fantasy books, but when it's done well, and then there's cultural elements. So like one author that does this well would be like the Keeper of the Lost City series. That is just like, I am amazed at the creativity. And then Selena R. Gonzalez with A Thieving Curse, that series has been just very neat, where it's just like, wow, there's so much uniqueness into this fantasy world. It feels like a real, maybe not a real world, but it feels very fleshed out, I guess would be the word to use. And this author definitely did that with this world. There was different things, and even though this is a pretty short book, like 220 pages, very short, I read this so fast. Speaking of reading this fast, I was reading this so fast, I couldn't even let my brain rest to try to figure out where this was going, like the plot, what was going to be the ending, what was going to happen here. I didn't even figure it out. That is so rare for me, to read a book and not have my mind in the background going, yeah, this is fixing to happen. This could happen. Oh, he's the villain. Nothing of that with this book. I was just sucked in, thoroughly enjoying it, and then just gasping left and right at the ending, the plot twist. I was not expecting any bit of that. It went in a totally different direction. Our whole group chat was just going bing, 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 because we were just losing our minds. It was very much fun. Very fun. It was very much fun. It was fun. It was very, very fun. It was very enjoyable to read it with those girls, and I think we all really enjoyed it. So it was a success. I was not expecting to enjoy this book as much as I did, but I really did. And now, my last 8 books are all in the same series. And if you follow me on Goodreads, you already know what series this is, because I've been binging them in the last, 2 weeks. And that is the Four Kingdoms series by Melanie Cellier. Book 1 is The Princess Companion. This was a retelling of The Princess and the Pea, which I'll come back to. But y'all, this series has been addictive. I've had so many friends just rave about her fairy tale books, and I was like, wow, yeah, those sound great. I'm going to read them at some point. Well, it is some point, because I have read the whole first series. And thankfully, there's 2, technically 3 spin-off series, so I'm really looking forward to starting that next series soon. I actually own books 1 and 2 already, because I found them for a good deal on Pango. So I'm going to read those very soon, because I was sucked in, and I love it when a book can just suck me in and just distract me from everything. Typically, though, I have to read it at night, because I'll get distracted by my book and not get anything else done during the day. But this was such a fun series. I have had so many booktube friends and so many book friends just talk about this author, and I get the hype. I get the hype for her fairy tale series now. I cannot wait to continue on with the rest of it. This was my favorite book of the series. I gave 4.5 stars. I want to talk about all of them, but at the same time, if I talk about all 8 of them, I feel like that's going to be a long part of this video, so I'm going to try not to talk about all of them too much. But this is The Princess and the Pea, which I don't think I've ever shared on here, that I just think that is the most ridiculous but fun fairy tale story ever. It's so ridiculous. Like, you're gonna pick the girl to be the princess, or the next queen, because she noticed the lump in the mattress. Okay. But this just worked so well. It worked so well. I just was giggling. I was so tickled pink by this book. I gave it 4.5 stars, rounded up to 5 on Goodreads. I get the hype. I get the hype. Our main girl is Alyssa, and she is a woodcutter's daughter, and she kind of got separated from her group when traveling, and so she goes to this castle. I love that she goes to a castle for refuge. I'd look for, I don't know, the stable off to the side or something. But because of a mistake in identity for a little bit, they welcome her in, and she becomes the twin princesses' companions. And can I just tell you, those 2 little twin princesses were something else. And the next series, the second series, book 1 and 2, is their stories, which I cannot wait to read about. But I really enjoyed this one. I did tab this one up as well. I have parts for cute romance, parts I liked, and then the twins. The twins were great. This was definitely my favorite in the series overall. I can see why a lot of others say that this is the best book in the series, because I agree. So with that, I actually bought the rest of the series. I have a problem. I'm going to be doing a book haul soon. And when I know I'm going to do a book haul, I'm very bad about just buying books because, oh, I wanted to buy these books anyway. I'm going to do a book haul. I might as well just do it now. It's not a good habit, but it's my habit. So I actually have all of them coming in. Again, they're coming tomorrow. They couldn't come today when I was filming, which was a bummer. But I also read The Princess Fugitive, I can't say this word, by Melanie Cellier. This whole series is by her, and I gave this one 4 stars. This is actually kind of one of the villains of the first book, so I was really tempted to skip it. But I was like, no, I'm gonna read it. So I read it. And I actually did enjoy it. I was really glad to read it. I thought the romance was really cute. I'm trying to think, what is this one the retelling of though? My mind hit Little Red Riding Hood, that's it. My mind went blank. A Little Red Riding Hood, and I thought that was very interesting. This author seems to have a very unique style of... Wow, can y'all hear the rain? That was not on the forecast today. This author seems to have a very unique style and viewpoint of fairy tales that just make them very different and new and entertaining. And maybe it's just this world, how all of these books are connecting, but I have just been basically sucked into this series and reading them pretty fast because I've really been enjoying them. That was book 2, and then she has a little like 16 pages short called The Kitchen Maid, which is good to read with them, which I think I gave that one 3 stars. It was good to connect into things. And then I read The Coronation Ball, which was a novella for the series. That one was a Cinderella retelling, and I really enjoyed that one. I gave that one 4 stars. Happily Ever Afters was another novella in this series, and I gave it 4 stars. That was a reimagining of Snow White and the Red Rose. The Princess Pact, which was a retelling of Rumpelstiltskin, which was technically book 3, and then I gave that one 4 stars. A Midwinter's Wedding was a novella 3.5, I think it was, and that was a retelling of The Frog Prince. I gave that one 4 stars. The Princess Game, which was a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, I gave 4.25 stars. And then the final book is The Princess Search, which I gave 4 stars. Now, no, that last one was a retelling of The Ugly Duckling, which I want to talk about that right now. That one was very interesting. I'm not typically big into the Ugly Duckling retelling because it's typically about their outward appearance or their physical appearance. And it gets, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's repetitive, but it's just not my favorite fairy tale to read. So I was a little like, I'm not as excited about this one because of that. And we don't really, these 2 characters, the 2 main characters of this one are mentioned in passing, and I was like, but I did read it, and I'm glad I read it because I did enjoy it. So overall, this whole series was just so much fun. I wish I could talk a little bit more about each one of them. I guess I could, but I wrote a lot of my thoughts on Goodreads, so I'll link those down below. But just in case you're curious about ranking them, I want to rank them for you. At the bottom, I would say A Midwinter's Wedding. That was novella 3.5. I didn't really care for the main girl in this. I found her a little annoying. Really liked seeing everybody again because that was the one where we see the couples from the prior books, and I thought that was really fun to see them. It's all very interconnected, and here's a sibling marrying this sibling, but then that sibling, oh wait, that just took a wrong turn. This one girl is marrying this guy's sibling. Next book is this guy's story where he marries this other girl from this other kingdom who her brother was the main guy of the other book. There. Did that make any sense at all? No. But there's a whole family tree for this series, and it's not complicated, and I was able to keep them pretty well apart, except in A Midwinter's Wedding, because there's 5 sisters, and their names all start with C, and I was kind of losing my mind. Didn't really love this one, but I still gave it 3.5, 4 stars. Place number 7, I would say The Princess Pact, which is book number 3 and the retelling of Rumpelstiltskin. I thought this one was very interesting, but we didn't really see enough of the main guy, in my opinion. All of these are primarily told from the main girl's perspective. And I liked the main girl in this. She didn't make the best decisions, but it was very interesting to see the Rumpelstiltskin retelling of it. So Yeah, I'm putting that one here. On place number 6, I would say Happily Ever Afters, which is a novella. I think that was novella 2.5. I honestly would almost put that as tied with The Princess Search, but I'll put The Princess Search right above it. That was the final book and a retelling of The Ugly Duckling. I liked a lot of different aspects of that one. On place number 4, I would say The Princess Fugitive. I can't say that word. That was book 2, the retelling of A Little Red Riding Hood. And I liked that one particularly because of the final trials that happened in that book. I thought that was all very interesting. The main guy is her bodyguard, and I like that trope. So it had its cute moments for sure. My third for the series would be The Coronation, because I love a good Cinderella retelling, and the main girl was sweet. It was just cute, very short. It was like 60 pages, but it was cute. Number 2 would be The Princess Game, which seems to be a lot of people's number 2 pick for this series as well, and that was a Sleeping Beauty retelling. It had to do kind of, our main girl was cursed, and instead of dying when she was 16, she was just going to basically look like a fool to everyone once she turned 16. So like basically she's very focused on dresses and flowers and that kind of thing. But the main guy, who is the prince of another country, is like, there's something more going on here. And so she's able to get around her curse, though, by sneaking out at night and becoming this spy master. And she's able to save her kingdom and all that kind of stuff and see what's going on there. And I really liked that element of it. But my very favorite book of the series would definitely be book 1, and that is The Princess Companion. So just in case you were wondering, that is my ranking. Da-da-da-da-da. Book 1 was the best in my opinion. I totally just realized I forgot 2 books, so I'm going to go back, film those, and then we're going to talk about our final stack. So there we are, my friends. A lot of these books were winners. I am so happy about that. It's really funny. Last recent reads, yes, I had all those controversial opinions, but I also had quite a few like hard-hitting emotional books, if you will. And this past few weeks I've been, no, I don't want to read any of that. I want predictability and cute fluff and just happiness. And that's what I've been reading, and that's been lovely. It's lovely to be a mood reader and read what you're in the mood for. So our current stack is here. Ta-da! These are the physical books. I have this little tiny one is The Coronation. It's like 60 pages, so it's more of like a pamphlet, but it was really cute. Elsewise, though, which ones would I buy? Maiden in the Tower and A Beautiful Love for sure. Really enjoyed that one. And then all the Melanie Cellier books I have on order. I'm weak, y'all. I find a book I like, I find a series I like, I buy it. I'm bad about that. I mean, to be fair, I did wait till there was a sale on Librius, so I did wait. But book haul coming soon, probably in a couple weeks. Well, I'd have to look at my schedule, but it's coming. It's coming. So here is our stack. I feel like I'm not sure if I'll keep the Audacious Miss Eliza, but everything else I'm keeping, and that will be exciting. I am going, here's this fun fact. So let's see if I can do this. Looking at this shelf right there, that is my clean fantasy shelf. That I'm gonna have to move to this shelf, and because I have all those Melanie Cellier books coming, so I'm going to put those there because those are clean fantasy, clean fairytale fantasy. She is a Christian herself, but she does not technically write Christian fiction. But with that series, it's been really interesting that you can see a lot of nods to Christianity with that series, particularly because there is a high king who rules over the whole land, and then he has godmothers. Not fairy godmothers, but winged godmothers that help. And there's a couple mentions of like magic and then, you know, curses in each book, at least a couple in each book, because like the Sleeping Beauty retelling had a lot about that, but it still wasn't, it didn't feel magic heavy. So if you're okay with like princessy fairy tale books, you should be fine with that series. But back to my plan. So I'm gonna have that shelf, I think, be my fairy tale shelf, and then that one I'm gonna move into my clean historical fiction category maybe. We're going to play with that in an upcoming video where we're going to add books to my shelves. And I'm so excited about that because look at all the space. This is also a problem I'm noticing. When I had just my 2 bookshelves and I was full, I had no more space, I was rereading a lot, which was great because I needed to reread. Now though, my problem is that I have all this space, I want to buy books. It's a bad habit. I'm telling y'all, it's not a good thing. And I've got plenty of books on my physical TBR, but I've been having so much fun with the Kindle Unlimited books. So as of books that were on my physical TBR, not including Hope at the Ocean's Edge because I got that one for review, only 3 of these today were on my physical TBR. Which is not as impressive because last video I had 7 and I was so happy about that. But I mean, overall I had some really good books in this video, so I'm trying to, like, it's okay. It's okay. You have good books and you bought books and you're going to add them to your shelf and it's going to fill it up eventually. So that's my current situation right now, is I'm having difficulty holding myself back. Oops. So I think that's it for this video. I've talked y'all's ear off enough, but I would love to know if you've read any of these. Do you want to read any of these? Have you read the Melanie Cellier books? Have you read any other fairy tale retelling books? Even better if they're on Kindle Unlimited, let me know, because I feel like I'm going to be going through like a withdrawal once I have finished this series and the spin-offs. It's going to be hard, but I'm looking forward to reading them. I don't know. Fairy tale retellings have just been what I've been in the mood for, and I do think there's a reason for that besides like I just want predictability, cuteness. I want that. There is also a Facebook group happening right now for the summer months, and I think it's June and July only. I think it ends in August. But it's called Clean Fairytales, and I will link it down below. And it is about books that are just that broad meaning of clean, that are all fairy tale retellings. And there's been like author takeovers and giveaways happening, and you can share about the ones you've been reading. And it's been really fun, and I think that being in my Facebook feed kind of daily is influencing. That's like, oh, that looks really good. That one looks really good too. So yeah, I'll try my best to remember to link that below, so if you're on Facebook, you can check that out. Now that is it for this video. I will let y'all go. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see y'all next time. I am Lindsey from the blog booksforchristiangirls.blogspot.com, where there is a new review every Monday and Friday. I try to post a new video on this channel every Friday as well, and then I'm also on Instagram, TikTok, Goodreads. We have a newsletter for BFCG if you'd like to check it out, and feel free to see me here, there, and everywhere if you need your TBR to be longer, which of course you do. Of course you do. So thank y'all so much for watching, and I hope you have an absolutely lovely rest of your day. Bye!